So this is going to be a bit different. The library we were going to film for this Friday's video actually turned out to be closed for Veterans Day, and then we had some scheduling conflicts. They have pretty limited hours since they're very small, so we're going to go ahead and plan for that next week. But I thought we would take the chance to look through one of my bookcases that's absolutely filled with cookbooks. Now, I've been asked for a bookshelf tour by a couple of subscribers, and I thought I would break it down into a couple of videos, because if I showed all of them all in one video, you would be here for hours. So let's go ahead and start with this one, because this one has some really interesting treasures in it. Now, I thought we'd do something a little fun. As I'm showing the cookbooks, go ahead and in the comment section, write down the name of the cookbook that you would like to see fast-tracked on the channel. I'll go ahead and pull those out and get to them as fast as I can. So let's go ahead and start this tour. Alright, and here is the bookshelf in question. We're actually in the room next to the kitchen, so this is where I keep my cookbooks. Now, I try to keep my cookbooks in some kind of order, and just recently I've gone through and kind of put them back into, I don't know, some kind of theme on each shelf. So this bookshelf is kind of my pamphlet cookbook. You see I've got some spiral ones. Some of these can be from churches. Some of them are, well, I'll show you. They're just kind of all over the place, really. And a lot of these are kind of my, what I would call campfire cooking, like Southern cooking and chuck wagon cooking. You know, some of these have already been on the channel, so you'll recognize them. Some of them are new, and some of them are probably ones that you'll want to see pretty quick. I thought we'd start with the top shelf. This is where I keep my oldest cookbooks. You'll see I've got quite a few really interesting titled ones. I'm going to show you this one in a minute, but this one, we've got The Science of Food and Cookery. This one is from 1921 and has some really interesting aspects to it that I think would be really fun to put on the channel at some point. Now, some of you may be familiar with this one. This Amy Decision was on television quite a bit in the 90s and was a little bit controversial. I remember some people actually getting mad at her for being so frugal. But let me show you the inside of this one. So this book is actually a compilation of a newsletter that she used to mail out back when, you know, we didn't have blogs. You know, people would have to actually print their blog out and mail it to people. But in her newsletter, she would give tips on extreme budgeting. And you can see this went from everything to your household, gardening, and your food. There was nothing she did not recycle, reduce, or reuse. Now, some of these are, yeah, pretty extreme and probably something, you know, that not everybody would be interested in. But her recipes are actually pretty good. And if you would like a more in-depth look on Amy Decision and her extreme budgeting, frugal techniques and her recipes, then go ahead and comment below, because this is actually a pretty fun read. I've always enjoyed this. We've had Amy Decision's books for several decades now, and we always enjoy looking through them and just seeing, is there some way that we can kind of reuse some of the things that we might normally throw out. I'm pretty sure she's talking about right here, things where you can write into these companies to get cheaper versions of these items than you could in a store. So if anyone's ever looking for blank audio cassettes, if they're still in business, there you go. Now, this one here was actually my grandmother's, and let me show you what's inside this cooking magic. This isn't actually your normal kind of cookbook. This is a bunch of little cookbooks that were bound together into one. So we have quite a bit going on here. And sometimes you will see these individually sold on eBay. I've not really seen them all together like this. And I'm not really sure where my grandmother picked this up, but you can see there is a lot in here. So we have some low-calorie recipes. We've got ground meat. Oh, waffle fries. Okay, I thought those were chips at first, but no, those are waffle fries. Okay, that looks a little better. I just love these old cookbooks like this with these really great illustrations and these really wild colored photographs. We've got cooking with sour cream and buttermilk. That's actually kind of interesting. That probably won't be something that I'll be able to cook in unless I can find some lactose-free versions. But it's kind of neat to see that. Oh, we've got the holiday cookbook in here too. We might just have to pull something out of that for upcoming Christmas. We've got some, oh, it's not just Christmas. This is every holiday. Oh, I forgot about that. Okay, we even have Lincoln's birthday and Washington's birthday. So, yeah, they went every holiday. Got some really cute little illustrations throughout. I really enjoy that. We've got quick dishes for the woman in a hurry. We may actually have to do that one soon and test that theory. Now here's a fun one, cooling dishes for hot weather. We'll have to pull this one back out in the summer and see if it actually works. And this one's really cute, the Lunchbox Cookbook. I really like the cover on this one. This one's really cute, and some of you may remember those old metal lunch boxes that the men used to take on their factory jobs or construction sites with a thermos inside. Those are really cool. So this is something that we have several in here that we need to try out that look really interesting. Now, this cookbook was first published in 1939. I have the 1947 edition right here. We immediately are greeted by a really great spread right in the front. You can see it's divided by region, which some of the regions are kind of unusual. I will show you here in a minute. So it starts out pretty average. You've got your New England cooking and everything that you would find in a New England state. You are next greeted with Southern cooking. So again, pretty ordinary, but then you're greeted with Pennsylvania Dutch cooking, which I thought was a really interesting addition into a regional cookbook. We also have Creole cooking, which is really interesting. But this is the one that I was really intrigued by, Michigan Dutch. Now, some of you may know that I'm originally from Michigan. We have been to Holland, Michigan, and it's really fascinating up in that area. So it was pretty cool to see that there's a lot of recipes in here from that region that we may just have to put on the channel and talk a little bit about the history of the Michigan Dutch. And wouldn't you know it, we've got another Dutch group. So now we've got the Wisconsin Dutch, which would be interesting to see, is there a difference in the recipes between the Michigan Dutch, the Pennsylvania Dutch, and now the Wisconsin Dutch? Now, Minnesota did not want to be left out, so we've got some Minnesota Scandinavian, some fine old recipes that would probably be pretty interesting to get into. And then we have Cosmopolitan America. This is recipes from the many lands that have found an American home. So we've got recipes from all over the world that has influenced and been a staple favorite throughout much of the United States. Now, we also have the classic Joy of Cooking, which we need to have on the channel at some point. This one you've seen on the channel before. It was a fascinating cookbook made extra special by everything that was written inside. The woman that owned this cookbook was a prolific recipe saver, and so you can see all her little recipes that she cut out from magazines and products themselves, and of course newspapers. So it was a lot of fun to go through these newspapers. There were some stories in here that we were able to look up and find what had happened to some of those people in the years since. We saw some really neat prices. It was just a really great look through and a wonderful find at a library book sale. We did this one several times actually because this is actually a 1912 edition of Loney's Cookbook, and so we featured it in April in honor of the sinking of the Titanic. Now this one my grandmother had. It's German cooking, and we just have nothing but German recipes in this one, of course, which would be a fun look through and a nice addition to the channel. We have the Settlement Cookbook, which was also my grandmother's. This one doesn't look over the top special. It looks fairly average. Kind of a cookbook one would keep if you were kind of learning how to cook and you needed something that had a lot of recipes to it. This one was also my grandmother. She picked this up when she took her Hawaiian vacation in the 70s. And it has quite a few recipes in here. We could also have this on the channel to see if it could beat out the other one that my grandmother brought from the islands. We didn't like that cookbook very much. It had a lot of non-Hawaiian dishes in there that weren't particularly tasty, but this one that she bought may actually be better. We also have the art of making salad, because that's an art that everyone should have. We have a very interesting plate here on the front. Not too sure if I would be too keen to make that, but we do have several other salads in here that may be pretty good. And now we come to my favorite cookbooks on that shelf. I saved my favorites for last because I really wanted to show them to you. I absolutely love these, I would call corny little cookbooks. They certainly are very punny, but they are certainly very cute. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these. What started it is my grandmother actually had this one, Cyrano de Casserole by Ruth Cheer Rosen. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that correct. Now, her husband actually had the publishing company. You can see right there, Richards Rosen Associates. So he owned the publishing company, and his wife certainly made the cookbooks, because this is not all of them. These are just ones that I found for a good price on eBay and went ahead and purchased, and I love every one of them. Now, Ruth certainly had a flair for dramatic and really interesting names to her cookbooks. You can see we have the Terrace Chef. I really like this one, Masquerade, the Leftover Cookbook. So you're basically hiding your leftovers in other dishes. We have a Tomato Well Dressed. Now, each one of these cookbooks would have come into one of these little gift boxes, but the gift boxes are kind of hard to find because most of the time people would just throw these out. But you would have received this in a box, and inside would have been your actual cookbook. All of these range from the 50s and 60s. This one is really interesting because some of these restaurants are actually still in existence. And it was fun to go to my section, Tennessee, to see if any of them were still there. I'm not sure about Justin's. I can't remember if that one's still in Memphis. But as far as this Pioneer Inn in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, that one is no longer in operation, but I do know the building is still there, and it's now an antique shop. We'll look at this one here. Have Cookbook Will Marry, a basic cookbook for today's bride. And inside, each cookbook would stay on theme with their illustrations. And you would have in these little cards every little recipe that you might need to make a home. You've got entertaining snacks for after dark, so if you've got that party you're wanting to throw, you've got a ton of little recipes to help you make it a success. So if you would like to see an in-depth review of these little cookbooks, go ahead and comment that below, and we will go ahead and jump on the punny bandwagon. And here we come to my other little favorites. I think these are so cute. I found this entire set here on eBay for an extremely low price. You can see they used to be 15 cents. They're very small, very cute. I imagine that they were just on the rack, maybe next to the cash register. And you know, you could just go by and pick one up if one caught your fancy. This one is 1963, and from the look of the illustrations, it looks like most of them were probably in the 60s. Now, there were several of these, and not just cooking. These little pygmy books did a lot of like sewing and crafts and different home repairs, just anything you might need that would be practical to have. But what I was interested in, of course, was the cookbooks. We have some tasty sandwiches, smorgasbords, Jewish cooking, party snacks, barbecue, Chinese American. We don't have just tasty salads, we have unusual tasty salads. And then we've got our French cooking. I think these are adorable. They've got little illustrations in each one. They've got cute little recipes. So if any of you would love to see a month devoted to these little pygmy books, just let me know. All right, now here's the section that's a little bit scary because you can see I have got them crammed in there, but they're also in the back. So I guess let me just show you some I think of that are the most interesting. Some of these I think we've already had on the channel, so I won't go through those. But there's some in here that I think you would really like. These, some of you may remember, I went through the Smoky Mountains and picked these up. But we have some pretty interesting little pamphlets and stuff in here that I think would be really fun to try out. If you can't see, I've got a little cat that's insisting on helping me with all of this. But these right here, some of these are my grandmother's and some of these I actually got off of eBay. These are mostly just little pamphlets from, well, you can see this one's from Nordic Wear. So a lot of these are just from different companies like Hamilton Beach. And in each one, they'll have some little recipes and how to use their product. And these are really fascinating to me. So I bought these off eBay, and there should be 4 of them. Let's see. Yeah. So this woman, Barbara Goodfellow, she made all 4 of these cookbooks, Make It Now, Bake It Later, and it's exactly what it says it is. This is 1970 edition. This is all kinds of recipes that you know, make ahead and then bake it later. So I think this would be a really interesting thing to see on the channel. You know, how did she publish these? Who was she? Because I've seen these on eBay and there's several different years to them. So these were actually republished several times. Now, we have some things that were on the channel. We have one that needs to be on the channel. We got some old Pioneer recipes. And of course, we've got Betty Crocker. Now, we've done this one, and I think we did a fish recipe. Yeah, we did a fish recipe out of this one, and it was really good. Now, I've got some more little pamphlets here. We've got Pillsbury, we've got Kraft, and then I've also got these, which I think would be really interesting too. We've got Carolina Cooking, Pennsylvania Dutch Cookbook. These right here, Watkins, are so fun. Watkins was one of the very first multi-level marketing companies that ever got started in America, and one way that they would do their sales is to give out these little pamphlets, basically, or little magazines. You've got what to do with Watkins products, which I think they made something for everything, or at least it seems like that in these magazines. I think it would be really fun to just look at the company and then try one of these recipes. Now you'll see there was a little hole right here. These were meant to hang by your oven so that you would have easy access to all kinds of things that you might need in your kitchen. And here's Nordic ware again. We have another unusual old world recipes. These are a lot of fun. I love these really 60s, 70s kind of hippie looking things. This looks really fun. This is Betty Crocker. It's extremely colorful and really interesting to look at. We've got more Merry Makings by Betty Crocker. We've got all kinds of little Christmas ideas. This is really cute. This is basically just a giveaway pamphlet. Actually, I think most of these were just little giveaway pamphlets, probably things you would get in your grocery store. Sometimes you could send away and write to the company, and they would mail you back these little pamphlets. Oh, we've still got so many up there. Probably should slow down on my collecting, but when I see things that are really interesting and kind of unusual, it's really hard for me to pass it up, especially if it's a really good price. We have Finest Middle East recipes. This one's actually pretty thick, so this isn't just a pamphlet. This is an actual book, and it's got some really interesting recipes in that one. So if you want to see that one, comment below. We've got Swiss Cookery. That one looks good. And then one of my favorites that I found on eBay, Knox On Camera Recipes. Now, you might be wondering at the title, what does that mean? And I did too, until I opened it up and saw that each recipe is made as if it's on television. So they're taking a still, or drawing a picture of every step and then just kind of making it look like it was on television, which I think is a little bit of an odd gimmick. But it was a gimmick that must have worked because Knox is still around. Oh, we have It's Fun to Fondue, and we also have Fondue Cook In. We've got How to Freeze Food. We've got Make a Casserole, maybe from all that food you've got in the freezer. And we've also got the Big Boy Barbecue Book. Yeah, it's a kind of an odd title, but we have here all kinds of different ways to barbecue your food, which looks really good. We've got Sunbeam. We've got Fast, Fun, and Fancy with Carnation. This title really grabbed my attention because who doesn't want to be, fun and fancy? I really like the illustrations in this. You can see it's very 60s. We've got speedy menus for when you're in a hurry. We've got recipes for that unexpected guest that pops into the home. And then we've also got weekend cooking. So this one's really cute. I really enjoy, the whole gamut of this cookbook. So if you want to see that one, let me know. And wouldn't you know it, we've got another fondue cookbook. This one's very 70s. We may have to look at that one too because that looks kind of cool. We've got shrimp, we've got evaporated milk, we've got imperial sugar, we've got Farberware, We've got freezers again, and all of a sudden a Real South Cooking by Patricia Mitchell. She has done tons of cookbooks. You can still get her pamphlets anywhere you go to, like a national or state park here in the US, but she also have a website where you can get all of her titles for very reasonable, actually. But we're not done. We've got Life of Georgia Cookbook. Now this one's been on the channel before. It was really cute. 1929. These used to be given to new brides. We've got New England Cookbook, 300 fine old recipes. This one looks like a really nice one. And of course, I have tons of Amish cooking. This is from Lancaster County with soft pretzels and funnel cakes, but that's not all. It's got tons of other recipes as well. We've got Hungarian. Now this was my grandmother's. She was a big collector of different kinds of international cooking. She loved to try new things and new dishes, and so international cooking was on the table to eat quite a bit. We've got one from the Good and Plenty. If any of you have been to Lancaster County and been to that restaurant, you'll know it's one of the best restaurants you can eat at. So good, but it really is plenty. So skip breakfast if you're gonna go have lunch there. Now this one would be interesting to put on the channel. It's all about, of course, beans. And how that ties to Michigan, I'm not sure, but we could look at this cookbook and find out. Now here's a little collection that I bought off of eBay because I was intrigued by Louise Henderson. Now, she's a bit like Patricia Mitchell, where you can usually find her cookbooks in tourist shops and national parks. And she wrote tons of them. You can see here, we've got Mama's Cooking. We've got Aunt Lou's Cooking. We've got Louise's Cooking. We've got recipes for rovers. So if you're on a car trip, now you know what to make. And her list kind of goes on and on. So I've been wanting to do a special on her for a while now, because I kind of want to talk about, you know, how many cookbooks that she had out there, you know, kind of all the little sayings and stuff that she's got in here. They're pretty cute, and I wanted to try the recipes to see if they're good. We may have to plan a small car trip just to try this one out. And some of you may remember doing this. These are meals that you would put on top of the exhaust manifold of at least a 6-cylinder engine wired securely, and you would be able to cook, supposedly, these things just with your car engine. Now, some of these would take 4.5 hours. So yeah, you'd have a long way to go before you got dinner. Now, as you can see, I have tons of these little country cooking cookbooks. Here's some wood stove. There's Bear Wallow books. Again, they have a website you can buy these from, and they are like the other ones, Patricia Mitchell and Louisa Henderson, in which these used to be in, and may still be, in a lot of tourist areas and national parks. We've got an Any Idiot Can Cook. We've also got Cookin' Yankees Ain't It. And then we've got our Hillbilly Cooking. So we've got quite a bit. Now this one is really interesting. Ma's Cooking Notes of Pa and the kids' favorite vittles. Now this kind of looks homemade. The inside is, you know, handwritten notes basically, but I can't tell if this was sold by the family or if this was just made to look like it was from an old Southern family that just came down from the mountains. So this could either be for real or this could be a gimmick. I don't know, but we could look into that, research it, and see what we come up with. We've got Seal Test Kitchens. Now, these are a dairy company. I believe they're still sold in Canada and possibly the northern United States. I could not find them here in Tennessee, but I do know that they are still making products. But this is one of their cookbooks. And then we have a whole collection of seal test recipes from the 50s and 60s. I think some of these might even be from the 40s. I think this one is. These are so cute. I love the covers on these. And it's exactly what it says. It's just Food Advisor. Oh, this one actually has a date on the front. So you see 1946. And inside is just little recipes on what to do with their products. But they're completely cute. I found this whole bundle on eBay and I could not resist it. The eBay seller even threw in some old typewritten recipes, so we'll have those on the channel as well. But if you want to go through and, you know, just do a deep dive on seal test and these cute little pamphlets, then go ahead and let me know in the comments. Now, this is a great find, the Dillard House Cookbook. Some of you from Georgia, or if some of you have ever taken a road trip to northern Georgia, might know what that Dillard House is. It's a really great restaurant that feeds you as much food as the Good and Plenty. So if you go there, just like with the other one, skip breakfast. This cookbook goes into a lot of the history of the Dillard House and a lot of their most famous recipes. So if you want to see that one, let me know. This was my grandmother's quick cooking from the top of the stove. You can see she's busy here making an entire meal without even using the oven. And then this I got from a yard sale, and yes, it did come with the clay pot. This was inside. So this is kind of an interesting way of cooking. I've never used it yet. So if you want to see that and see what does a clay pot in the oven do for your food, let me know. And now I'm going to put all of these back before we get to the next shelf. But remember, if there's anything in this stack that you would love to see on the channel, go ahead and let me know, and I will put them on there as soon as possible. Pulling all of those out just kind of showed me that I have so many cookbooks that I need to get through on the channel. Oh my goodness. Okay, but this is going to be an easier one because there's not a whole lot going on in this shelf, even though they're kind of crammed in there. I do have some that I found from the library book sale that looked really interesting. Now, this one's pretty cool. It's from Wyandotte General Hospital. Not only did my grandmother work there, but also my mom. My grandmother worked there as a lab technician, and my mom was an RN. Okay, I guess I lied because there are quite a few interesting cookbooks on this one. Here we have Frankenmuth. Some of you may have been to Frankenmuth, Michigan. That's a town that was founded by German immigrants. And here we have Shipshewana. Now, a lot of you may be familiar with Shipshewana. That was a giant flea market, basically, in Amish country. It was fascinating back in the day. I haven't been there in a long time, but we used to make little trips over there just to have a fun day and see what was going on and to eat good food. And we always found some really interesting things. We have food from the Quakers. This is an interesting cookbook that some of you may want to do a deeper dive on. And of course, we have yet another Amish cookbook. This is the Horse and Buggy People. I don't think I've had this on the channel yet. It was recommended to me. It's pretty interesting, so if you guys want to see that closer, let me know. This one looks really interesting. Good Earth and Country Cooking. This is kind of a Pennsylvania Dutch cookbook, but if you'd like to see that close up, then let me know because this would be a really fun cookbook to delve into. Now, I misspoke earlier. It wasn't Watkins that was one of the first MLM companies in the United States. It was actually Raleigh's. Watkins has a slightly different company history to it, but their pamphlets were set up almost identical, because here you've got kind of the same setup. You've got all about their products, you've got calendars, you've got helpful household tips, you've got how to use all of their products, especially their beauty aids, and you've got some recipes. Again, this one had a hole in it, so presumably you could hang it up in your kitchen and always have it close at hand. And this was a good way to advertise all their products, obviously, but also, you know, for you to get some use out of them and remember who gave this to you, so that if you ever needed a product, you could get a hold of this seller and order some more, kind of like Avon. This is an actual cookbook that they published, so nice and thick, really crammed full of recipes, really nice color photographs. That's a really cute one, but it's these that are kind of the funnest ones to look through. I bought this stack off of eBay, so some of these do not come from the same direct seller. This one's obviously different than the other one I showed you, which I can't really make that out. I think that's Scott, so maybe Glenn Scott. So if you would like to see more of a history of this company and take a look at their recipes, then go ahead and let me know, because that would be a fascinating series. And that takes care of that shelf, so let's go ahead and get those put back in. Remember, let me know, because this shelf had some surprises in it that I had forgot about. So if you want to see any of these, just let me know. Now, I know I said that this shelf wasn't all that interesting, and then it really surprised us, but this one really isn't. This is mostly just my canning. You know, just a few little things that might be kind of fun, like this Montgomery Ward's Adventures in Microwave Cooking. Some of you may remember Montgomery Ward. It was a pretty popular and big department store at one time. We have a couple of Campbell's, and then we've got First Ladies, which we've already had on the channel. And then, of course, we've got this Smoky Mountain cookbook, which I don't think we've had that on the channel yet. So if you'd like to see that one, let me know. That one does have some pretty interesting recipes in it, so I think we could make a really good meal out of this. And last but not least, we have my Betty Crocker collection. Now, some of these were my grandmother's, and some of these I've bought off of eBay. And some of them I've already shown on the channel. I believe we've already looked at my grandmother's picture cookbook. You can see she's had this one for a long time. And it's very nice inside. I absolutely love the pictures and illustrations on this one, and I'm pretty sure we had already done a really good look through of this one. This one I think would be really fun on the channel, just to see. Oh, you can see that was my grandmother's. Just to see, are they still money-saving recipes even today? That looks like a pretty good spread. Might be kind of expensive to do nowadays, but we could look at it and find out. This is one that I will be looking at for the Christmas holidays. Now, you can see this was actually ripped out of a magazine. And yes, in 1959, my grandmother ripped that out of a magazine somewhere, probably at the doctor's office, and then snuck out the door with it. Now, some of you may remember when Betty Crocker was putting out this spiral collection of recipe books, and some of these are my grandmother's, and some of these I actually purchased on eBay. I'm pretty sure this one was hers, and basically it's exactly what it says it is on the cover. Just kind of a niche collection of recipes with a theme. So this one you would have family dinners in a hurry, which we could put to the test. These are kind of fun because they show you what the menu is going to be, and then they give you the timetable breakdown of what to do to get that dinner on the table. We have dinner in a dish. I don't actually have one of these, but we could approximate it and just try out the recipe. We have the dinner for two. This one looks really cute. This one was actually my grandmother's, and I absolutely love these illustrations. Isn't that so cute to have the little cup in the plate like that? I love that set. But out of all of these Betty Crocker cookbooks, I saved my absolute favorite for last. I've shown this on the channel before, but we've never cooked out of it, and we've never really done like a big deep dive. I think I just made a short about it, but I love this cookbook. This was copyright in 1962. And it's exactly what it says it is, a calendar cookbook. So it goes month by month and tells you a history of the month, what kind of holidays are found in that month, and just little interesting information and facts about it. And then you go into the actual recipes. Now you have the days of the week, so presumably you could write down what you wanted to make on that day, but I'm kind of glad that no one did, because that means you can still read all the little tidbits that they put that happened on that day. But as for the cookbook, I think this is probably one of the cutest things I've ever seen Betty Crocker come out with. So if you want to see this and do maybe a closer look at it and cook something out of it, let me know, because it's one of my favorites and I think it would become one of yours. And there you go, that's one bookshelf down. That was a very informal book tour, but something that I think was really good to do, because I found some in there that I forgot that I had that I really wanted to put on the channel. So remember, if you've seen one, go ahead and write it down in the comments below, because I would love to put them on there. So I hope you enjoyed this book tour, and if you did, don't worry, this was just part one, because I have another whole bookshelf to go through. Actually, I have two other bookshelves to go through, so we've got quite a bit to look at. So thanks for watching this little bit of a different video. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next one, where we will be going to the smallest library in my area to see what kind of cookbooks that they have to offer. So I'll see you then. Bye.